Hi, I'm Tony Lombardi, and welcome to the Russell Street Report. The Ravens are now tied for the AFC North lead at a 2-1 record. They could be alone in first place and among the unbeatens if not for a ticky-tacky foul against Tavon Young in Cincinnati. We'll talk about that later in the program. It's Steelers week, and we know what that means. Sunday night in the Berg, the Ravens will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it'll be a battle again to get another win in the AFC North. The Ravens have a tough stretch, arguably their toughest stretch over the next 3 games. They play in Pittsburgh, then they go to Cleveland, and then they finish up their road trip in Tennessee when they go to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. The Steelers, they finally put a W up on the board on Monday Night Football, 30-27, despite a turnover ratio in their favor of 4-1. They only won by 3 points, thanks in part to their 29th ranked defense. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll talk about the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield, he's the man now. Looked great in relief during the last Cleveland Browns game, and we got to wonder what they're going to do to make adjustments to Baker Mayfield. To the Ravens' advantage, they'll have a full game to see him play against the Oakland Raiders. That'll work in their favor when they go to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. Back to the bad officiating for a second. What are they doing to these poor pass rushers? These guys need to make a living. Clay Matthews, 2 weeks in a row, he gets a roughing penalty that shouldn't have been in either case, affecting wins and losses for the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about that in the program too. On Sunday, Miami Dolphins defensive lineman William Hayes, he tore his ACL. Guess how he did it? He tried to avoid being the next Clay Matthews. He tried to avoid landing on Derek Carr, and when he did, he tore his ACL, now out for the season. Gets back to the point I made earlier. These guys got to make a living too. Justin Tucker had a consecutive field goal string snapped on Sunday when he had his field goal attempt blocked. Was it a legal play? We'll break it down and we'll look at it closely here on the Russell Street Report. The Ravens running game, through 3 games in 2017, they averaged 4.3 yards per carry. This season so far, just 3 yards per carry. What can the Ravens do to get their running game untracked? Perhaps to get the running game untracked, the Ravens just signed former Bears center Hroniss Grasu, not a household name. He's played in 14 games. He started 12. He was cut by the Chicago Bears just prior to the 2018 season. To make room for Grasso, the Ravens released defensive back Robertson Daniel. Now that could be a sign that Anthony Averett is going to be okay against the Steelers. The Ravens had 2 first-round picks in 2018. Neither one of them has made an impact so far. There was a guy on the board in the 2018 NFL Draft that screamed Baltimore Ravens. He was a typical type of Ravens pick. His name we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, but he's the number 5 ranked safety in the NFL right now in just his rookie season. Joe Flacco. I think it's safe to say that he is a mutter. Joe Flacco, during his 2 home games and downpours throughout, he has thrown for 513 yards on 74 attempts, completed 50 of them, 4 TDs, 0 interceptions for a 105.3 passer rating. Not bad in those types of conditions. After the break, I'll be joined by Russell Street Report beat writer Todd Karpovich. We'll touch down on all these topics and more. We'll also touch down on your questions later in the program, the Q&A segment, and we'll also give our bold predictions for this Pittsburgh Steelers game this coming Sunday night, again up in Pittsburgh and Heinz Field. When we get back, we'll show you a play that could have been a game changer on Sunday. We'll focus in on that play, but fortunately it was not a game changer, and we'll get back to that as soon as we get back here on the Russell Street Report. Also, we'll be joined by an original Raven, so don't go away. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Find nearest bakery.
Showing nearby bakeries.
Find party supply store near here.
The 2018 Corolla, loaded with the latest tech and Toyota Safety Sense standard.
I got it all.
Where's my mom?
She wasn't on the list.
Right now, get $1,000 customer cash, or qualified buyers get 0% APR financing for 60 months on a stylish new 2018 Corolla. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey, Justin Tucker, you just bought some Royal Farms world-famous chicken. What are you gonna do now? Got some chicken in my hand, gonna eat it, understand? It's crispy, golden brown, moist and tender going down.
Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms.
Royal Farms.
Take my hand now and take my heart. Take a part of me. I've been like a soul alone, drifting on the sea. But it's alright, and it's okay, 'cause I'll be away but I'm waiting for something to give. And I'm here for a purpose, looking under the surface. And I'm tired of waiting to live. Out of hand and out of touch is the game that I used to play. Take it all, yeah, chew it up, throw it all away. But it's okay, and it's alright, 'cause I'll be waiting at least another night. 'Cause I'm lost in the moonlight, and I'm left in the taillights. Still I'm waiting for something to give. And I'm here for a purpose. I've been under the surface, so I'm tired of waiting to live. Take my hand now and take my heart. Take a part of me. 'Cause I'm lost in the moonlight, and I'm left in the taillights. Tired of waiting to live. Lost in the moonlight, left in the taillights, just waiting for something to give. Lost in the moonlight, left in the taillights, tired of waiting to live. But it's alright, and it's okay, 'cause I'll be waiting at least another day.
Welcome back to the Russell Street Report. You are listening to the sights and sounds of Rob Fahey. I mentioned before we went to break, we're going to touch down with one of the original Ravens. Well, that was one of the original Ravens, but Ravens with a Y. I want to welcome in my co-host today from the Russell Street Report, our beat writer, Todd Karpovich. Todd, how are you today?
Good. Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you for
What do you
having me.
think of Rob Fahey, man? That guy's still getting it done.
It's old school, man.
He is
Old
getting it
school.
done. Have you ever seen him at the firehouse before the games on the rooftop?
I usually cover the game, so I don't get to.
Well, there you
get
go.
out
I should
much.
know that, right? But my God, I mean, there's no way that he should not sing the national anthem in front of 70,000 people.
It's gotta
He's
be
that
coming.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, he brought tears to my eyes the first time I heard him sing that. It was just so passionate. So
That's awesome.
So Rob Fahey, you'll be listening to a little bit more of him as the show goes on. Now, Todd, back at the top of the show, I talked about some of the topics we wanted to cover today, one of which was just the Ravens are now tied for first place in the AFC North. Just your overall impression so far of the Ravens through 3 games.
Well, I guess we're still trying to figure out their identity. They're really good at home. We know that.
Right, in the rain.
In the rain, they had a clunker against Cincinnati, which I think a lot can be attributed to losing Mosley. With the headset and and calling the plays on defense, they were lost without him, and they.
And the Cats pounced on that too.
Oh yeah, they know exactly. They took advantage.
They did.
They were running different routes, and they were getting downfield, and there was coverage issues. So once they got it straightened out, once Weddle got on the headset and was able to calm things down, the Ravens came back, and they just fell just short. They made a nice run there.
Now it's Steelers week, and the Ravens are 2-1. The Steelers at 1-1. They're tied with Cleveland Browns. And we always know that it's a rivalry. It's probably arguably the best rivalry in all of sports. But it's changed, in my opinion, Todd, because they've taken the physicality out of the game. There was a time when these games were 17-14, 20-17. They pretty much averaged about 37 points for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And 3 points always seemed to be the difference. Now I don't think the rivalry is as intense because the league has kind of taken that away from them.
It's a skill game now. It's quarterbacks throwing the ball downfield. It's guys making big plays. You don't see any of those big jarring hits. It changes the complexion of the game, get the fans fired up. And both teams this year are explosive of offense. So it's going to be wide open. It's going to be a different Ravens-Steelers game. It's not going to be that old black and blue matchup.
And it's kind of been that way over the last couple of times. If you think back to the immaculate, what do they call that, the stretch, whatever they had a name for it, with Antonio Brown. They knocked the Ravens out of the playoff race then.
That was a physical game.
But there was a lot of points. And the last time they played the Steelers, again, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 500 yards.
Yeah, we may see that again on Sunday night.
I was looking at the stats earlier before we came on the program, and do you know who the number 1 defense is in the NFL?
I know. Is it Pittsburgh? No.
No, they're 29th.
Trying to think. Maybe Kansas City.
No, you would think it would be somebody other than this team, but it's the Baltimore Ravens are the number 1 defense.
Wow.
So my point being is that is a testament of the way the game is going. Because I'm not seeing a number 1 defense. We're so used to the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed defenses.
Yeah, we're seeing no touchdowns, field goals. And,
right. What did Ray used to say, or he used to ask, Shannon Sharp used to ask Marvin Lewis before the game, how many do you need today? He'd say 13 wins.
Yeah. I mean, they went, 2 seasons without allowing a 100-yard rusher.
Right.
That was a big streak.
Just ridiculous. But it's all changed. And now I did want to talk a little bit about the officiating. 2 weeks in a row, Clay Matthews gets rung up for
bad one.
A real bad call. And the kid, the defensive lineman in Miami.
Yeah, and then last night, Pittsburgh game.
Right.
The guy hit Roethlisberger on the head, and he got up.
Right.
And even Ben Roethlisberger said after the game, I don't understand how that was a penalty. He was the one that got hit.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think I think there's too many rules, and the officials don't really know all the rules. I think they're struggling to interpret what they're supposed to call, and it really puts them in a bad position. And
I think you're right. When you change rules, how many times? When's the last time that the NFL went into an off season and their rules committee got together and made no changes?
No. I mean, when Justin Simmons jumped over the line against the Ravens on Sunday for Denver and blocked the field goal, probably nobody knows the rules better than Jerry Rossberg, and he was right on it. Ravens special teams coach, and I think John Harbaugh said yesterday they basically got confirmation what they said. You can't do that. The player has to be stationary before he jumps. You can't be moving and jump over the line.
Right, because that's happened to them against the Patriots a couple of seasons
Exactly. And I just don't know how they missed it. Luckily, this crew is lucky that it didn't really change the game, the score, because it would have been a big deal.
Yeah, I mentioned at the top of the show, if they go on and score that touchdown, changes the complexion of the game completely.
Ravens lose that game, believe me, this is a lot bigger deal than it is.
I agree, and I say going into the game, some people laughed at me, and I would get emails from people saying I was losing my crackers, but I thought that this was a must-win for the Ravens. Go 2-1. With these 3 road games coming up, that was a must-win.
This team's going to have to hold serve at home to make the playoffs. And this is a game. Anytime they're favored, they have to win.
Hold serve and hopefully get half the road games.
Pick up a couple on the road. They got a shot. But Cleveland used to be that win every year, but now Cleveland's a field goal kicker away from being 3-0.
They are. Let's talk about Cleveland. Baker Mayfield, your impression in his relief pitching appearance last time?
He's a gamer. He's one of those guys. He's fearless. He comes in. He's going to play. He's going to run the offense. The offensive line believes in him. The players believe in him. But he's going to have his rookie moments, and it's going to come because he just doesn't have that experience. But if I were Cleveland, he'd be the guy. He'd be the guy right now.
Now to be successful on the road oftentimes requires good quarterback play, mistake-free play on the quarterback's part. But to help him become mistake-free, they got to get their running game untracked. Right now, through 3 games, the Ravens are averaging 3.0 yards per carry. At this time last year, through 3 games, they were at 4.3. What's the biggest difference in your opinion?
Well, I think teams are stacking the line a little bit, and that's going to loosen up as the season goes because traditionally the Ravens weren't going to beat a team downfield. So teams are still testing them. You have to beat us, throwing the ball, and the Ravens are doing that. So I think it's going to loosen up as we go. Teams are going to. I think Alex Collins hasn't broken that big run yet, and once he does, it's going to change the average a little bit. John Harbaugh talked about that a little bit yesterday. Buck Allen's he doesn't have the numbers, but he's having a really good year. I think he's got 4 touchdowns.
He makes clutch plays.
Yeah, he does. He's a big guy in the red zone. I think the Ravens, they're going to break it open. You got to remember, the thing is, a lot of teams don't put stock in the preseason, but Alex Collins did not play a whole lot in the preseason. I think he played in one game. So he's still getting his feet. I think he's still going to break out this year. But they need that running game.
Hronis Grasu. Is he going to change the running game for the Ravens?
Def. That's def. The guy has started. He did start for the Bears. He started some
14 games he's played in. He was number 3 pick in 2015.
He also has season-ending injury.
A third-round pick. Yeah. I think the 71st overall by the Bears.
He also had a season-ending injury, I think, the following year. But he's good for depth. We'll see what he can do. There's not a whole lot of options out there. I know almost every NFL team is looking for offensive line help.
They really are.
Depth. Yeah.
But what do you think of the Ravens going with James Hurst over Orlando Brown? I'm kind of surprised that they've stuck with him through 3 games as a starting right tackle.
So am I, but again, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes in practice.
Right.
We don't know what's happening in the meeting rooms. We don't know if Brown's picking up on what they're doing on offense. There's a reason for it. Believe me, if Brown is performing well, he will play his way into the position. The Ravens will play him. All right, so there's something's not going. He's not there yet, apparently.
Right.
Apparently, and they can't afford that Joe get hurt.
No, and could you see a situation where Grasu actually works his way into the starting lineup? I know you said it's for depth, but could you see him working his way into the starting lineup and maybe kicking Skura, who I know the coaches really like? Yeah. I'm not sure what they're seeing that I'm not seeing.
He's struggled so far.
But they like him, but maybe they bump him out the guard because Alex Lewis has struggled equally.
Yeah, the offensive line has not played well. They played well on Sunday. Ronnie Stanley, there's questions about him all of a sudden. The first round pick.
And here's a newsflash. Marty Morningweg actually schemed up the offensive line well to kind of neutralize Von Miller.
Oh yeah, they did a great job with that. They did a lot, and they admitted they did a lot of schemes, but they played hard. But you're right. A new guy comes in, he can push for playing time if he's got some experience. So I think we're going to see some shuffling on the offensive line, and I think there's going to be some inevitable injuries just because of the way they're playing.
Ravens had 2 first-round picks in 2018, the first of which, the 25th overall, was Hayden Hurst, who's been hurt with a stress fracture in his foot, and they've had Lamar Jackson, who they moved back into the first round to get. So far, your observations and thoughts on Lamar Jackson and the way the Ravens are using him?
Well, it's a year to learn. I think they're doing the right thing. Sunday, he played the least snaps he's played all season. I think he played 2 snaps, which was the lowest in the 3 games. And I guess
it looked like Joe Flacco tried to get him killed.
I know. We joked about that. threw that ball high.
Take out his competition.
Brown was supposed to be the key player there, but they marked him out, and Joe kind of threw it away to see if they get on the run. But Lamar's still learning. He's not ready. He's not ready to take over the job, but they have confidence in him. He's going to get a chance to make plays. And Hurst played phenomenal throughout training camp. He caught it. I think he may have dropped one ball when I was there.
He was diving all over the place.
Yeah, and catching everything fearless, and that foot injury is unfortunate. He has a chance to practice this week, and I still think he's an impact player. And then look at Mark Andrews, how he stepped up.
Yes, in fact, I made the comparison. Tell me if you agree with me. I compared Mark Andrews to Dennis Pitta and Hayden Hurst to Todd Heap.
Yeah, and Harbaugh was comparing Andrews to Mark Bavaro, who he never heard of. Andrews never heard of. So it's funny.
I don't see the comparison. Bavaro was a rugged guy. You know, Andrews to me is a guy outside the numbers, maybe in the.
I think the Pitta comparison's a little more apt. Yeah. Again, Andrews, he's a guy who did not have a great training camp, but the light goes on during games, and they'll take that.
So anyway, my point being with the 2 draft picks. There was a guy on the board, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, that the Ravens passed on, who, in my opinion, really screamed Baltimore Raven. And that was Derwin James.
Yeah, he's a player. He's lighting it up in San Diego. They got the number 1
Fifth
pass
ranked
defense.
safety.
Yeah, they have number 1 pass defense. He's the real deal. He would have been helpful here. But again, the Ravens, they talked about boosting the offense this offseason.
To me, leaving Derwin James on the board, and I think he was even pegged to go earlier than the 25th pick.
Yes.
Maybe mid first round, maybe even earlier in some mock drafts. But when you pass on a guy like Derwin James, to me that says you really didn't go after best player available like they typically do.
No, you went after need a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they according to the board, they didn't even take the best tight end. According to the rankings.
If you listen to the Ravens, they justified the 2 picks that they made in the first round. They said we had 3 guys ranked close to each other, and these are 2 guys we had ranked in the 25th slot. So we got both of them. So they were happy. So
yeah, we'll see how it pans out. We can't make the decision the first year, but yeah, he would have looked good. He would look good in purple.
Speaking of draft picks and how they've panned out so far, Tyus Bowser. He's been a big disappointment.
Missed that big block on Sunday.
On the punt, right?
Yes.
So Tyus Bowser's been a disappointment. You thought that maybe Dean Pease didn't trust him. That's why he didn't see much time as a rookie. But it doesn't look like this coaching staff trusts him much either. He's not seeing much of the field. And when you look at this team the Ravens are playing this coming week, the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night, there's a guy on the other side of the ball, Juju Smith-Schuster, that was on the board.
Yeah, another guy.
That was a position of need at the time for the Ravens in the 2017 draft. They passed on for Tyus Bowser. He's been a disappointment so far.
He hasn't shown the motor to play in this Ravens defense. You got to play quick. You got to run to the ball. And so far, he hasn't shown that, and he won't get on the field. Tim Williams played well in the preseason, and I still think he's got a chance to be a pretty good playmaker.
I agree. He thought he played pretty decently. He didn't get much in terms of statistics on Sunday against the Broncos, but I thought he was menacing in the passing game.
Much better than Bowser. Bowser's got a lot to prove here, and the thing is, you got to earn it on special teams, and you make a mistake like that where you miss a block, and then you turn your back, and then you turn your back on the guy as he's going for the ball. It's just, I wouldn't want to be in the film room with him this week. With Jerry
he looked like a matador. But when you talk about Todd that he's not playing fast, we know that he has the athletic skills. When he's not playing fast, that means that the mental part of the game, in my opinion, isn't being processed as quickly as it needs to be at the NFL level.
Yeah, it's like you got to let go. You got to run to the ball, and you got to play hard. And he's getting chances. They're giving him opportunities, but you got to perform, especially with the Ravens. There's no sentimentality with this team.
And there shouldn't be.
No.
Now, heading into the season, one of the things that was talked about was Joe Flacco. He got some weapons. He was healthy. He had a game plan, and he was going to have his coordinator back for the 3rd season in a row, and maybe there was going to be some synchronicity there. And then there was also James Urban, a quarterback's coach. All these things pointed to Joe Flacco having a better season. Your thoughts on Joe Flacco so far in 2018?
Sunday, we saw the perfect example of the new Joe Flacco. In the 4th down, when they needed to run the clock out, he ran for 5 yards. Took off, went past 2 defenders, slid, and got up and pumped his fist. It was the emotional Joe.
Everybody wants to see
Joe Cool was going.
Joe.
Joe was fired up, man. And the Tony Jefferson ran off the sideline.
Got the
players fired up. That's the new Joe Flacco. If we see that Joe Flacco all season, Ravens are going to win some games.
So he's a real mutter, too.
Yeah, he plays in the Ravens. Well, he's got the arm. You know, the Ravens talked about that.
I tell you what, Todd, I've never seen a quarterback spin a ball in those kinds of conditions as consistently as he does. His spirals are just tight all the time.
Well, back when he was at Delaware, his pro day, and the Ravens went down to see him at Delaware, it was a windy day, and he was just throwing the ball downfield against the wind. They were astonished at his arm strength. And he showed it here in Baltimore. He gets time. And look at John Brown, the plays he's making, 44 yards downfield.
Right.
You know, and he's making great catches too. You know, so if
Now,
Joe
I'm glad
stays,
you brought up John Brown because Andy Benoit from Sports Illustrated, he started to compare the Ravens' new receivers to the receivers last year, and the one that he compared John Brown to was Mike Wallace. I don't think they're anything alike.
Not even close. Not even close. Mike Wallace is a good possession receiver, got downfield. John Brown is a gamer. You know, he'll push off, he'll fight for the ball. He's a small guy who seems to he has a nose for the ball more than any player the Ravens had in numerous years.
And he's a much cleaner route runner than Mike Wallace.
Exactly. He's where he's supposed to be. That's why the ball's getting to him.
Absolutely.
And Crabtree too. Crabtree's better than anything they had last year.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk about the bold predictions against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Todd's bold predictions and mine, and we'll also take your questions in our Q&A segment. Don't go away. This is the Russell Street Report.
Hey, Justin Tucker, you just bought some Royal Farms world-famous chicken. What are you gonna do now? Got some chicken in my hand, gonna eat it, understand? It's crispy, golden brown, moist and tender going down.
Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken legs, chicken thighs, don't forget the western fries. Don't you wish you had some too?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken that's real, real what?
Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Like 33rd Street was to Colt fans, Russell Street will become legendary for future generations of Raven fans. Not only is Russell Street the team's address on Sunday, it's now home to the website voted Baltimore's best 5 years in a row. You've known them as Ravens247.com for years, and now you'll love them as RussellStreetReport.com for many more. There's nothing else like it for Baltimore football fans. Trust me, RussellStreetReport.com. Baltimore's home for football 24/7.
I don't want to hurt you. I don't intend to try. I bet no desert you or make you cry. Too many tears have fallen. Too many dreams have died. Too many words were stolen. Too many lies. When you lay your head at night, I'll be a shoulder for you when you cry. And when you wake up from your fright, I'm gonna hold on to you. I'll hold on to you. Yeah, 'cause when you're lost in it all, I'm gonna find you. And when your back's to the wall, I'll be behind you. And when your stars start to fall, I won't let that blind you. Angel in red. Another night in heaven, another day of hell. They play with your affection, bid you farewell. They take your love for token, live on a wing in prayer. But when your wings are broken, I'll still be there. So when you lay your head at night, I'm gonna hold on to you. gonna find you. And when your back's to the wall, I'll be behind you. And when the stars start to fall, I won't let that blind you. Angel in red, you'll be my angel in red. And when you're lost in it all, I'm gonna find you. And when your back's to the wall, I'll be behind you. When the stars start to fall, no, I won't let that blind you. Angel in red, angel in red, angel in red.
Welcome back to the Russell Street Report. You were listening again to the sounds and sights of Rob Fahey. Rob Fahey is a fantastic local musician. You can see him all over town. I advise you to check him out on robfahey.com and also his Facebook page, Rob Fahey, so you can go out and see him live. Just a fantastic artist and a great guy as well. So before we went to break, we talked about question and answers from you, the fans. If you want to get in with your own questions, send us questions at TL@russellstreetreport.com. You can see it on the screen, or at either of our Twitter addresses, at RSR Lombardi or at the Fanimal. Send them to any of those, and you can get your questions here on the show. So we're going to go to a question, Todd, from, who was the first one? From Gary in Ellicott City. And Gary wants to know, did the Ravens make a mistake by rewarding Brandon Williams with a $52.5 million deal? This is a hot spot of mine, Todd, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, he got the big deal, and remember last year he missed. They had the number one run defense last year before he got hurt. He missed 4 games, and teams ran through him. And once he got back, they sort of settled down. This year, we haven't heard his name much. He hasn't done a whole lot this year. Maybe it's because Pierce and Henry haven't been back in the lineup. We haven't had those 3 run stuffers. But we were talking about, on Sunday, has Brandon Williams made a play this year? And really, there was a lot of money for how he's performed so far.
I think when you look at the game, and we talked about how the Steelers-Ravens rivalry has changed, there's a lot more points being scored. It's not that physical game that we used to enjoy. That just, you could almost feel it as a fan watching the game. You felt like you were bruised up after watching those games. That's changed, and I think the league has changed, and I think that's indicative of the changes in the league. So why invest all that money in a 2-down run stuffer when the most important plays on the field come on 3rd down and during the last part of the 4th quarter when Brandon Williams isn't even on the field?
Yeah. Well, they're thinking they have a big run stuffer. They stop the run to make teams one-dimensional, and they win games that way. But like you said, the game's changed.
It's a lesson learned, I think. I think they learned a lesson from Ray Rice and not over-investing in running backs. And I know there was other circumstances with Ray Rice, but I think they learned a lesson there. Maybe they'll learn a lesson, too, with Brandon Williams, that you don't invest so much money in a 2-down player. Because the Ravens have shown in the past they have the ability to find these guys in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. Their roster is speckled with those kinds of players. And Brandon Williams himself was a 3rd-round pick. So why invest that kind of money in a 2-down run stuffer?
And that's a lot of money that could go to Mosley, who's a free agent.
Could go to Mosley, or could have gone to the offensive line where they're struggling right now. So I think it's a lesson learned, and I'm pretty sure Eric DeCosta is going to take note of that and take it forward. As the Ravens try to shape their roster in 2019. The other question, 2 other questions came in. This is from David and Kearney. He wants to know, why isn't Orlando Brown Jr. starting over James Hurst? And we touched upon that a little bit earlier.
We touched on, yeah. We don't know what's happening in practice, how Orlando Brown's picking up the offense, but. He could play his way into it. I mean, we've certainly seen that. And I think Hurst is more valuable as a depth guy who can play multiple positions. So I think it's coming. We'll see.
We'll see, but he got a lot of PT during the preseason, and I thought he looked decent. But, I've always said the preseason is smoke and mirrors. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
Because when you think about how some players are just trying to protect themselves, get in a little work, now in the preseason, players don't even play. Look at the Los Angeles Rams.
And the game is so much faster in the regular season. It's night and day. It's a different
Right.
game. It's a different game, and they got to make sure he's not the weak link who gets Flacco hurt. At least Hurst has some experience.
But I have to wonder, because Hurst did a fine job as left guard last year, and Joe Delisandris got that running game going along with Greg Roman. I have to wonder if Brown at right tackle and Hurst at left guard isn't a better option for the team right now. Because Alex Lewis, let's face it, he's been a disappointment.
Yeah, he hasn't played hard. He's fought some injuries over his career, and he hasn't been that guy. I'm sure this is being discussed behind closed doors.
Last question comes from Kristen in Severna Park, and Kristen wants to know, will Joe Flacco be a Raven in 2019?
That's the big question. He's playing like he's earning his money this year, but that's a lot of cap room for them to release him. I guess it really depends how he finishes this season. If they win the Super Bowl, they go deep in the playoffs. Do you bring him back? And then how much ready is Lamar Jackson ready to take over? And then is RG3 a stopgap between Flacco and Jackson? A lot of questions there. But again, it's a lot of money. The Ravens can free up.
It is a lot of money, a lot of questions, and I think a lot of it boils down to what Joe Flacco does on the road. I mean, we're going to see something in Pittsburgh. He's played well at Heinz Field.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done well in Cincinnati, but what Joe Flacco does on the road, I think, is going to determine whether he's back in 2019. Of course, the record as well. Team falls apart and it's not his fault, then maybe they bring him back. But Joe is looking pretty sharp so far this year, and I think Booger McFarland from Monday Night Football said it best about Lamar Jackson. He's a year away from being a year away.
Yeah, and you got to remember, Joe has showed some willingness to restructure.
Absolutely.
That could also be part of the equation.
He could, but his agent has been a stick in the mud.
He's got one client, Joe Flacco.
Yeah, well, he's got a couple, but he's got one big client, and that is Joe Flacco. So I think he even said, Joe Linta is his name, and I think Linta said in the preseason that, yeah, Joe is ready for another big contract, if the Ravens want to let him go.
No.
It's almost like a threat.
Yeah, that's some posturing, and that's what you want to do. That's what you want your agent to do.
True, yeah. That's true. So let's go to some of our bold predictions. We're going to take on the Steelers in Heinz Field on Sunday Night Football. I'll start with you with some bold predictions. And when I mean bold, just a little outside the box thinking that, we can look forward to when the Ravens go into Heinz Field.
I think it's going to be a shootout. Like I think you said, there's going to be 30, 35 points scored in this game. I think there are a lot of balls going to be thrown down the field. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. Ravens Steelers don't have that animosity anymore, where they would fight at the coin toss and there would be brawls in the game.
Right.
So that could be more of a finesse game that we've seen between these two. But
remember the times when Joey Bell would go on the Ravens bus after Ray Lewis after.
Oh yeah, exactly. The police had to break it up.
Right.
It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a good battle between Ben Roethlisberger and Joe Flacco. Who wins that battle? I think Ben has the edge still with his weapons with Antonio Brown and his receivers.
So, a lot of points, a lot of yards. Final score, who's going to win?
I'm thinking 34-27 Pittsburgh.
Okay. We're kind of thinking along the same lines. I've got Joe Flacco and Ben Roethlisberger combining for 700 yards passing. I have the two Browns, Antonio and Smoke, combining for 300 yards receiving. 44 head-to-head games between the Steelers and the Ravens, and they've averaged 40 points.
Total, yeah.
This time, they're almost going to double that number.
Yeah, that's a 74.
I've got the Steelers winning 34-31.
Yep. And I agree with the Browns. Antonio and John Brown, because the Steelers secondary isn't great. We saw that last night. Patrick threw for 400 yards again.
Right.
So and Joe's
Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
He
also had some key turnovers too.
Oh, three first half picks. I was calling them Fitz tragic.
Yeah, and one pick six.
Right. That was awful.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That reminded me of Theismann in the Super Bowl back in the day. Threw it to the Raiders.
Just sailed it.
Same, like around the 10-yard line.
Yeah, and if Joe avoids those kind of mistakes, we could flip that score and say Ravens 34, Pittsburgh 27.
Yeah, but I don't think the Ravens' so-called number one ranked defense I think they're going to be put to the test. They always are against Ben.
They're going to have trouble with that. They're just going to have trouble with that receiving core.
It's a shame that Jimmy Smith isn't going to be back because you look at the size mismatch between Jimmy Smith and Antonio Brown. You would just think the shiftiness of Brown would have, he'd have a number on Jimmy Smith, but Jimmy Smith has really stuck with him in the past.
Yeah.
It's a shame we don't have him back for this coming game.
This is a game where they could really use him, but again, I don't think Le'Veon Bell plays, which is
they just let go of the other back, Daniel, the backup defensive back. Kennedy's on IR. Anthony Averett had a hamstring last week. I guess they're comfortable with him being able to play against the Steelers because otherwise they're down to 4.
Brandon Carr's been fighting some injuries too, quietly. So the secondary is really going to be tested.
And that's a really good point too, Todd, because with Carr fighting injuries, you kind of sometimes wonder, is that streak that he has, does that become more important than a healthy Carr?
But right now they have nobody. I really don't have anybody behind him now. He's going to have to with Jimmy Smith out. He's in a tough spot. So, yeah, the Ravens' secondary is going to face a big challenge. They're going to have to get pressure on Beth Roethlisberger. The pressure is going to have to be as good or better than what they had against Denver on Sunday.
You're a beat writer for the Russell Street Report. You're out there at the facility a lot. Any buzz going on about any particular topics that you can share with people that maybe they're not hearing on a regular basis?
Oh, it's Steelers week. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Guys are fired up. Coach Harbaugh has he's been in a good mood this year. I think they like what they have personnel-wise.
Okay.
I think this is a really confident.
His birthday this past Sunday.
This past Sunday. This is a real confident Ravens group. I think the fact that they managed to get out of training camp without 7 guys on IR has really been a boost for them. So I think they're confident they can do big things this year. You don't feel that level of anxiousness or uncertainty you had when guys were going down left and right in the past 3 years.
All right, he's Todd Karpovich. I'm Tony Lombardi. We're going to take a quick break here on the Russell Street Report. When we come back, we're going to sit down with the one and only Rob Fahey. Don't go away.
Like 33rd Street was to Colt fans, Russell Street will become legendary for future generations of Raven fans. Not only is Russell Street the team's address on Sunday, it's now home to the website voted Baltimore's best 5 years in a row. You've known them as Ravens247.com for years, and now you'll love them as RussellStreetReport.com for many more. There's nothing else like it for Baltimore football fans. Trust me, RussellStreetReport.com. Baltimore's home for football 24/7.
Find nearest bakery.
Showing nearby bakeries.
Find party supply store near here.
The 2018 Corolla, loaded with the latest tech and Toyota Safety Sense standard.
I got it all.
Where's my mom?
She wasn't on the list.
Right now, get $1,000 customer cash, or qualified buyers get 0% APR financing for 60 months on a stylish new 2018 Corolla. Toyota, let's go places.
Welcome back to the Russell Street Report. I'm Tony Lombardi, and our special musical guest this week is none other than the infamous, or famous, I should say, Rob Fahey. Rob, welcome into the Russell Street Report.
Hi, Tony. How you doing?
Great to see you, brother.
Good to see you.
Now, I got to tell you a little story.
I love stories.
Me too. Especially when I'm involved, though. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, with Rob, the first time I ever saw you play, I'm really dating myself here. I was in college, Delaney Inn.
I was going to say it could have been as far back as the 70s, right?
The Delaney Inn. It's probably like, what, early 80s?
Probably around 1980, I'm going to guesstimate.
And you guys, because of the songs that you played at the time, got me into one of my favorite bands, Bad Company. You guys used to do a number of those.
We used to do the song Bad Company.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember Keith on the keyboards.
Yeah, playing the Yamaha piano.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
But, Rob goes back ways. He's done a lot of different things, personal or solo, and with the Ravens, and now with the Pieces.
Yep.
And hardest working man in the show business.
Still working hard. It's hard to believe how hard I'm working at my age. That's crazy.
Now, for Ravens fans out there, they can see Rob still at the Firehouse.
I will not be doing all the games at the Firehouse. I'm doing some games.
Okay.
It looks like I'll be doing the second home game on the 23rd.
Okay, so the 23rd with the Broncos. Okay. And if you haven't seen them there, you got to go check them out because there's no way you can get any more ready for a Ravens game than to listen to this man do the national anthem. And make sure you bring some tissues because it will bring a tear to your eye.
Hey, and I understand they built a new deck on that porch too.
Is that right?
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
All right, that's good stuff. So anyway, going back to some of your earlier music, Fast Time at Ridgemont High.
I remember that movie.
Raised on the Radio. Now, I've heard this from a couple other people, independent people, and I figured I just may as well ask the guy that wrote the song. Was that a song that the Go-Go's were interested in at one time?
Well, actually, the song, people always ask, was the song written for the movie? The song had already been written and demoed, and when they heard it, they wanted to put the song in their movie.
How'd they discover it?
It was discovered through a gentleman named Mike McGinley, he was the tour manager for the Cars in the spring of 1980. It happened so fast. It was the spring of 1982, I guess maybe April, early May. David Bell met this man Mike McGinley, Cars tour manager at Merriweather, and he said, "Why don't you guys send your demos out to my office in LA?" And we did. And a week or two later, he called. He said he wanted to know if we wrote the songs, if we owned the music, which we did. He flew out to see us perform, and he was secretive. He wouldn't even tell us what was taking place. He said there's something big going on with this song. It may be in a movie. Nah. So a week or so later, he said, "Look, you guys, the song is definitely in the movie, and you guys are going to perform it." There was talk. They were talking about having an established artist or somebody famous re-record the song, and there was mention of the Go-Go's doing it. I didn't quite get the girls singing the song with the line in the song being "An All-American Boy."
Right,
You know?
right.
I thought that would have been a little tricky, but there was talk of the Go-Go's doing it. Mike McGinley, who eventually became our manager for a while, fought for us to do the song, and he got his way. We got our way by Memorial Day weekend of '81. We were in LA re-recording the song for the soundtrack.
And if you haven't seen the video, you got to go on YouTube and check it out because it's a great video. Talk about putting that together. I mean, it's a story.
Yeah, well, the video was actually not done until 2 years later. 2 years later, '84. The video was done after we did the Ravens album, because they re-released Raised on the Radio. The first recording of Raised on the Radio was on the soundtrack. That was on Electro Records. Then we actually eventually signed a long-term recording contract. It didn't end up being so long-term, but a long-term deal with MCA Records. So the Ravens album was released with MCA Records, so we actually re-recorded Raised on the Radio for the album. The video was done to the album version, not to the same version as was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. If you listen closely, there are two different beginnings to the song.
Okay.
One just starts with the guitar. Ding, 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 ding. That's the original version, Fast Times. The second version starts with the whole band. Bo-do-do-dum, bo-do-do-dum. Almost has an intro kind of like Video Killed the Radio Star.
Wasn't that the first song on MTV?
Video Killed the Radio Star was, yeah.
And you guys did some good...
Not Raised on the Radio, but unfortunately, but yeah, Video Killed the Radio Star was.
But you had some other tracks that you guys did some pretty cool videos too.
We did a really nice video for "Don't Leave Me This Way." That was an MCA. MCA produced that video.
What was the black and white?
The black and white video was produced independently in Baltimore by a gentleman named Tim Radicek, who is still very active in film. Tim shot that one. The black and white shot the Edgar Allan Poe house. That's a cool video. It's got it's a really cool vibe. I was the maniac.
Were you?
Yeah. No, I was the lunatic, actually, I should say. I was the lunatic in the insane asylum. That was me.
I remember it. Now I gotta go back and watch it again. Check it out on YouTube.
You'll see it.
So now, if you had to go back, I know everybody probably asked you this question. If you had to go back and undo one thing during your career that may have changed things going forward, and the reason I'm asking this question is because you know I'm a big fan of yours, and I've seen you a million times. And I also think there's a lot of really good local artists that just never get discovered on the big stage for whatever reason. And then you listen to the stuff they have out today, and I'm like, what's going on? So if you had to do one thing all over again, just one thing that could change the direction of your career, what would it be?
Well, I think I'd have to say we were 2 years late with shooting the video for Raised on the Radio. That video should have been shot in 1982. MTV was there at the time. The video was fairly new. And that was the second single released behind Jackson Brown's Somebody's Baby. It was released 2 weeks behind Somebody's Baby. It was a priority single for the record company. But what happened was, it was like a top 10 song in certain cities, but not the whole country, you know. And what happened was, it stalled because record radio stations were reluctant to add a second song from an album when they were already at Jackson Brown, Somebody's Baby, in heavy rotation. They didn't want to. It was too much too soon. Radio stations were really tight with their playlist at the time. It was hard to get a song on the radio, and if they were playing one song from an album, they didn't want to be playing a second song from the same album.
And Raised on the Radio would be perfect for that.
Yeah. So and we didn't have if it had been on MTV simultaneously, I think the results would have been a lot different.
Now, I know you play a lot of different songs, a lot of different covers. People come up to you all the time and make requests. If there's one song that people request that you wish they would, what is that song?
Oh, I can't really say there's anything I wish they wouldn't request. There are certain ones that are a little harder to sing at times than other ones.
Right.
But
like when I ask you to play Seal.
yeah, that's a hard one to sing. That's a hard one. It's very demanding. You can only do so many really heavily vocally demanding songs in one night.
Right.
You can't do them all every night, or you end up losing your voice.
Okay, so there's not one that you would say, no, I don't want to do that. But how about the one that you really love to do more than any other?
That's a tough question too. There are certain songs I love playing. I think I told you a while back I love playing the Procol Harum song, Whiter Shade of Pale. Although I haven't played it for a while lately. I've really taken a liking to. I've always liked playing for covers. I've always liked playing Cat Stevens. I think my voice is really suitable for that. And lately I started playing the Cat Stevens song, First Cut is the Deepest, which was a hit by Rod Stewart and Sheryl Crow, but it's actually a Cat Stevens song. Right. Such a cool song, and I really enjoy singing and playing that one. But I love playing some of the originals too. People ask me, do I get tired of being asked to play Raised on the Radio? Well, yes and no, because it's an honor that people remember and ask for it.
Right.
But it's also kind of neat to do a gig sometimes and distract people enough with the other material that you play the whole night and people love the music and you didn't play Raised on the Radio.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, I know you're a big Ravens fan, so I got to ask you a few Ravens questions.
Oh, here we go.
Now, you look back at 2016, 2017, Ravens 500 team, 8-8, 9-7. What about the 2018 team looks different to you or the same?
I think they look like a better team. I like that they addressed the offense. That was one of my favorite things about the draft in the offseason, is that they addressed the offense this year. I was really disappointed last year when they didn't address the offense. They addressed the defense. The whole draft was about the defense. The NFL is now an offensive league.
Right.
Defenses can't crush people the way they used to be able to. It's not.
Well, look at Ray Lewis. I mean, look at some of his highlights. You couldn't even do those things today.
I still have a T-shirt at home, probably from around the 2012 season. It says Ravens. It's got this big, mean Raven graphic on it. Smash mouth defense. You can't do that anymore. You can't even put that on a T-shirt anymore. It's not smash mouth anymore.
No, it's not. Game has changed. So you're right. They invested some money in players in the draft and in the offense. And, when I look at what they've done in the past, I always say that the investment in Brandon Williams was a little heavy because he's a two-down player, a guy that doesn't touch the ball or the quarterback, and he's making all this money.
I saw the address that. Here you have a little article up about that, right, in Russell Street. But I haven't read it yet. I want to read that.
So it's interesting that, the way the game's changed so quickly and how tight they call the games. That
oh, man, the refs are all over this year, aren't they?
Both ways. I mean, for the Ravens and for the Bengals in the case of the most recent game, it was just crazy.
You breathe on the quarterback, you're getting a flag thrown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So tell our audience where they can find you play on a regular basis, Rob.
Well, I'm still doing my Wednesday night run is still going at the New Sioux Island Grill and Crab House.
Nice place.
It's a great place. We have a great time there on Wednesday nights, and they have $2 crabs, and it's just a really good group of people there. We'll be doing Wednesdays there through October, and then that comes to a halt, and we start that back up next year in April. This Friday, third Fridays of the month, I play happy hour at Looney's Pub in Bel Air. That's a steady gig. Third Friday of the month, Looney's. Other than that, I'm all over the place with the pieces. We have a real nice end of summer party coming up this Sunday, 23rd, at the Sioux Island Grill with 3 bands: Mark Allen Project, Eclipse, and Rob Fahey and the Pieces.
Nice.
Going to be nice.
I remember when the horse was bought by Eric and his partners, or partner, and I was down there. It was the last night. This thing was going to get cut over and sold the next day, and no one was sure if they were still going to call it the horse. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I came up to you and I said, Rob, I know exactly the song you should play. Do you remember it?
No, you've got me. What did I play? Did I play it?
You did. You said it made all the sense in the world. A horse with no name.
Perfect. I forgot about that. Man,
So-
that's great. But it's still the horse, but they've really changed the character of it.
They have.
Yeah.
It's modernized. It's nice, but it's not the old gritty bar that it used to be.
I liked the seedy bar with the peanut shells on the floor,
Yeah.
man. That's what I liked.
Holes in the floor. You can see the lights downstairs.
Yeah. People falling through once in a while.
So-
Somebody
okay.
gets shanghaied.
Right. We're going to take a short break here on the Russell Street Report. I'm Tony Lombardi. Our special guest for the day is Rob Fahey. Don't go away. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Find nearest bakery.
Showing nearby bakeries.
Find party supply store near here.
The 2018 Corolla, loaded with the latest tech and Toyota Safety Sense standard.
I got it all.
Where's my mom?
She wasn't on the list.
Right now, get $1,000 customer cash, or qualified buyers get 0% APR financing for 60 months on a stylish new 2018 Corolla. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey, Justin Tucker, you just bought some Royal Farms world famous chicken. What are you gonna do now? Got some chicken in my hand, gonna eat it, understand? It's crispy, golden brown, moist and tender going down.
Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken legs, chicken thighs, don't forget the western fries. Don't you wish you had some too?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken that's real, real what?
Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Well, that's our show for today, folks, here on the Russell Street Report. Join us next week when we break down the Steelers game and we look ahead to the game against Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. We'll also introduce our next musical act, How's My Hat, and a brand new feature called Baltimore Ron. But before we leave you, one more from Rob Fahey. See you next week.